Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Spilka, and I'm the host of the Tech Incubator at Queens College interview series. Today, I'm joined by Dianna Rose, who's the CEO and founder of Jars of Delight, which is a zero waste catering company that delivers delicious, nutritious meals in a jar. That's so cool. Welcome, Dianna. And could you give me some background on yourself before you got into meal prep and catering, and what ultimately led you to choose that industry?
Just a little bit of background about myself. I attended Hofstra University and had no real intention of starting a food business. So, upon taking a class in community health at Hofstra, I realized that food was really connected to our health and wellness and our community's sustainability. So I had a really, really cool friend who was a professional MMA fighter, and I would prepare meals for him personally. And one time, he shared it on Instagram, the power of social media, and people kept asking him where they could purchase meals in a jar. And so that's literally how the company was born. So maybe about 2 months after that, I got my food handlers, I got into a commercial kitchen, and almost 4 years later, we're now contracted with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to prepare emergency meals for the city. So that's really the story behind Jars of Delight.
The power of social media these days. Could you walk me through the process of how you create each of the jars and where you get your natural ingredients from?
Sure. So the process is really simple. However, it's really scientific because it's all about the layering of the jars. So we have our less acidic foods at the bottom, and our less porous foods at the bottom. So you're talking about anything from maybe kale to broccoli, anything that's less porous, we have at the bottom of the jars. And we work our ways up to grain, and then to protein, and then to dark leafy greens, because you want to make sure that the jar when you have it is fresh and it tastes good. So that's really the scientific layering of the jar. However, we purchase locally as much as we can. So sustainably caught, any proteins that we use are sustainably raised, no antibiotics, from local farms here in New York City and upstate New York, Long Island, as well as organic produce that we source locally from, again, farms or food distributors that offer organic selections.
Oh, that's great that you're supporting our local agriculture. So, I saw when I was researching for this interview on your website that your mission is taking the sustainable path in a largely environmentally unfriendly industry. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that mission?
Yeah, absolutely. As a Black woman food business owner, it is difficult to really break into the industry at large. So then you throw in sustainability, you throw in concepts that really don't complement your bottom line in a business, and it's a little difficult. So my job in terms of sustainability is really allowing the food one to speak for itself, and then the education that follows it. So people always ask, well, why do you cater in mason jars? And that's just a good gateway to just teaching our community about why it's important to use sustainable materials, compostable materials, and why we compost our food scrap at the end of our day, because it's all important. And while none of us can practice sustainability perfectly, if we all practice sustainability where we are together, we can make a greater impact. So that's really why we lead with sustainability as our mission and our foundation for Jars of Delight.
For sure, that's a lesson that we all should really learn more and have a bigger impact on our society. When you created your business, did you have any person or experience that served as a form of inspiration for you?
Definitely. I grew up in a household. My stepfather is a professional chef. So I always grew up having an appreciation and love for food, and not just food, but presentation. I remember, especially like Sunday dinners, he always made like a big spectacle of Sunday dinners. And even though I was younger, I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. But we eat with our eyes first. So just how we present food and the love and passion that we pour into it, I think customers or even our families feel it when we serve that food. So I would say my stepdad is one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to food, but also just culture in and of itself. I'm from Jamaica, my family's from Jamaica. So there's such a big food culture there. And food really is another translation for family. So we're always celebrating around food or rejoicing or, even sometimes not so much the good stuff, right? It's always around food. So I would say my culture is really a great inspiration regarding food. But in terms of a business that I can think of, there's so many local businesses in Southeast Queens where I'm from that really do a great service regarding food. So they do a lot of community giveaways and give backs and support. So one that I can think of is the Nourish Spot. Dawn Kelly is the CEO and owner, and she's awesome and serves as my mentor and a source of inspiration.
What attributes of yourself would you consider creating a success as an entrepreneur, and specifically in the food industry when you're creating these jars?
I would say, for the most part, I am not afraid to fail. I think that is one of the biggest things as an entrepreneur, that you have to get over your fear of failure, because you're going to fail at something. And it's just a matter of being able to look at what you failed at and pivot it to something great. So I think that is probably my biggest asset when it comes to being an entrepreneur, is my lack of fear to failure.
That's really sound advice. But now on the flip side, do you have any stories of when you considered having a failure, or even if you feel like you've had multiple, like what would be the biggest one, and how did you learn from it to help you continue your success?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the biggest remembrances of that moment would be when I was catering for a very large event, and I forgot a very, very, very important piece of equipment that I needed for the event. And it was horrible to me. You do what you have to do and you improvise to make it happen. But what I learned from that is to have a list of everything that I need and to be prepared in that way, to have a list of everything that I should have at my event. So that way, before you leave, you go through the checklist to make sure you have everything. So it's just really about being prepared.
Yeah, that's another good piece of advice for everybody listening. So, now a little bit of a switch about why you're here today. You're affiliated with the Tech Incubator at Queens College, and I would like you to tell us, how do we help you out in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. The Queen's Tech Incubator has been phenomenal in terms of, just off the bat, the resources that you provide for small businesses like myself, and just the accessibility to reach out to someone at the office or in the center has been phenomenal. So, really, the resources that you provide have been one of the biggest ways that you've helped my business, as well as the actual, like, you guys show up. So whether it's at an event or farmers market, you tell your members of the Queens College Tech Incubator to show up and support. I've had a few the Queens College Tech members vent at the farmers market last week. Tropical Harvest, I know you interviewed Kishana last week as well. So really, the circular economy that you guys are helping to shape for our small businesses, as well as the ecosystem that you're designing, has been phenomenal. So that's just a few ways that you've helped so far. And I know there's many, many, many more to go.
I'm so glad to hear that. Like I always tell everybody, we love helping out our clients and building up the relationships with them. And I only started a couple months ago, but I feel like I'm already really within this community, like I've been part of it forever. So I just love the relationships that we're able to build and the strong connections that uh, that get fostered. Now back to your business a little more. Can you imagine yourself doing anything else besides being a part of your business, or within your business, creating another sector within it? Like creating jars with different types of foods, or expanding your product selection, anything like
Yeah,
that.
so there's always opportunities to evolve into something better or to something different. So I think the next step for Jars of Delight, one thing that we're looking at is creating our own dressings for our salads. But also, what we've done recently is created opportunities for college students to intern with us. Those who want to learn more about whether it's sustainability or community health or the food industry in whole, we've created opportunities. So that's something that I think we've done in the past year that's new and that's relatively exciting, is creating not just opportunities for internships, but looking at scholarships in the near future. So
I'm looking forward to seeing those dressings coming up if you actually go through with all that.
awesome.
So you mentioned that you do catering, or that you at least did catering before COVID. So, because of the pandemic, how did that affect the parts of your business, considering that you did sell things online, but also had that in person catering portion?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ways that we've pivoted, and especially for us, because we typically cater very large events, so 400 person events. That's what we're used to doing. So when the pandemic happened, our business came to a screeching halt. So we were blessed to be able to pivot and provide emergency meals for our local community through our state senator Leroy Comrie, as well as to be able to apply for and receive a contract to provide the emergency meals for vaccination workers. So we went from just your standard business catering events and organization catering events to more direct targeted events. Well, not really events, but direct catering to local residents and through the New York City Department of Health contract.
Thank you for your service for the essential workers. That was definitely needed during this time. So that's great that you were actually chosen to be able to contract food to them. Is there any advice that you would give your younger self before starting out that could also serve to any of our younger listeners out here?
I could leave one piece of advice before I go is to find ways to turn your passion into profits. I know a lot of the times we're kind of pressured into going into careers that serve us probably more so financially in the terms of sustainability and stability, but there's, especially in this era of creativity, there's a ton of ways that you can be passionate about what you're doing, about your career, about your profession, about your trade. So I think it's really important to let the younger generation know that you can really bridge the gap between what you're passionate about and what you're doing to make a profit, to make a living. So that's really important to know.
All right, so finally, I have a bit of a fun question, as I like to call it. What is your favorite jar?
My favorite jar, I guess that would be our tropical delight jar, which is mango with jerk chicken, grilled sweet potatoes, kale, and spring mix with the Vidalia onion dressing.
That sounds delicious. I definitely got to try it, and everyone listening, please try that and all the other jars as well. So, that concludes my questions for today. But thank you so much for all of your insights and all of your help to the community and providing more nutritious meals in a very creative way, might I add. Your story as well is very inspiring and hopefully can help the new generation of entrepreneurs show that there is so many ways to be successful as long as you find your passion and, like you said, find your passion and find a way to make a profit off of it, keep a sustainable business going on. So it was really a pleasure interviewing you today, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you for having me, and thank you to Queens College Tech Incubator.